And with a pending resubmission or whatever you call it, Blake Lively's team is going to reintroduce their complaint.
If Blake Lively gets discovery, there could be, folks, we don't know, but there could be damning evidence.
We have not seen too much from Blake's camp. And we know that Blake's camp is going to be coming out with her amended complaint.
And he was interviewed on the Dan Abrams show about the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case. And I think they were trying to get him to say something.
Welcome to Starlight Scoops, where we give you the inside on all your celebrity drama, gossip, and news. Today's deep dive is into one of Hollywood's most explosive legal battles, the lawsuit between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. But before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe to keep up with all the latest celebrity drama here at Starlight Scoop. Okay, over the next several minutes, we're going to unpack a story that has evolved from a professional disagreement into a full-blown courtroom war, complete with allegations of fabricated evidence, questionable legal tactics, and even claims of media manipulation. This isn't just another celebrity spat. It's a saga that raises serious questions about credibility, legal strategy, and the power of public perception in the entertainment industry. In this video, we'll explore every facet of the case, from the escalating legal dispute and accusations of evidence fabrication to the debate over a hostile work environment on set. We'll discuss the credibility of the evidence presented by Blake Lively's team, the influence of Hollywood media in shaping public opinion, and what the future may hold if these explosive allegations are proven true. So, let's get started. The legal battle between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively didn't start as a simple contractual disagreement. It quickly escalated into a war fought both in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion. What began as a series of professional differences has now evolved into a multifaceted legal conflict. According to sources and excerpts from recent interviews, Baldoni's team is now taking aggressive legal measures. They argue that what was once a dispute over creative differences has now morphed into a matter where credibility itself is at stake. One of the most striking lines from the early stages of this saga was, "If Blake Lively gets discovery, there could be folks we don't know, but there could be damning evidence." This remark, repeated throughout the discourse, signals the possibility that hidden or unrevealed information might emerge once more documents are examined. With both sides digging in, the stakes have never been higher. Baldoni's legal team isn't just defending his position, they're actively challenging the evidence presented by Lively's camp. This escalation has turned the legal proceedings into a high-stakes chess match, where every move is scrutinized by fans, media, and legal experts alike. Both teams are not only fighting for legal victory, but also for the narrative that will ultimately sway public opinion. One of the most explosive aspects of the case is the allegation that Blake Lively's legal team has fabricated evidence. Baldoni's lawyers have accused her team of submitting misleading, if not entirely false, evidence in their filings. In a recent letter addressed to the presiding judge, Baldoni's side didn't merely dispute Lively's claims. They launched an outright takedown of her legal tactics. They argued that if these fabrication claims hold up, it could undermine the very foundation of Lively's case. The argument centers on the nature and source of the evidence. Much of the evidence from Lively's side is said to originate from a PR representative's confiscated cell phone. Critics suggest that this evidence is not robust or reliable enough to stand up in court. In fact, Baldoni's team contends that this so-called evidence appears to be cobbled together, rather than produced through a transparent, legitimate process. Imagine a situation where the only documentation a party relies on comes from a single, questionable source. That is the scenario here, and it calls into question the overall strength of Blake Lively's legal position. If the allegations of evidence fabrication are proven true, the repercussions could be severe, not only weakening her case, but potentially leading to serious legal consequences for her legal team. Beyond the courtroom skirmishes, another layer of complexity in this case involves the work environment on set. There's been significant debate over whether some of the comments made by Justin Baldoni may have contributed to creating a hostile work environment. Critics point to remarks that, even if made in a lighthearted manner, could be interpreted as inappropriate or even harassing. For instance, Baldoni has been quoted as saying, "There's nothing more exciting to me than getting to work with Blake Lively and have all of her," followed by commentary that some have described as overly suggestive. While Baldoni's defenders argue that his comments were spontaneous and not intended to be harmful, others see them as evidence of a broader culture of inappropriate behavior on set. The key issue isn't necessarily whether the comments were malicious, but rather how they contributed to a toxic environment where boundaries were blurred. In today's climate, even seemingly offhand remarks can be scrutinized under the lens of workplace harassment, adding yet another layer of complexity to the already convoluted legal battle. A recurring theme throughout the ongoing dispute is the origin of the evidence being used by Blake Lively's team. According to the transcript and multiple reports, the only evidence that Blake Lively has so far comes from a PR representative's cell phone, a source that raises more questions than it answers. Critics argue that this evidence is inherently suspect because it lacks the corroboration one would expect in such a high-profile legal case. When a party's evidence is largely dependent on information from a single, possibly compromised source, the credibility of the entire case comes under scrutiny. Baldoni's legal team has pointed out that his own communications, which are far more extensive and come from multiple sources, are more transparent and professional. They claim that his text messages and internal communications reflect a measured approach, one that was meant solely for self-defense rather than to launch a smear campaign. This reliance on dubious evidence not only undermines the strength of Lively's case, but also raises questions about her team's strategy. Are they grasping at straws to build a narrative that supports their client? And if so, how long before the inconsistencies begin to unravel under closer inspection? No legal battle involving Hollywood celebrities can escape the court of public opinion, and this case is no exception. The lawsuit between Baldoni and Lively has divided public opinion, with some comparing it to other high-profile cases like the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp dispute. Media outlets have been quick to take sides. While certain outlets appear to be staunch defenders of Blake Lively, emerging evidence seems to be tilting the scales in favor of Baldoni. This clash of narratives is particularly significant because it underscores the power of media in shaping public perception. Early on, Lively's camp managed to leak confidential complaints to the media, ensuring that her narrative dominated the headlines. However, as more details emerge, especially those challenging the veracity of her evidence, public sentiment is beginning to shift. Many legal experts now suggest that the initial media narrative, which heavily favored Lively, may have been influenced by biased reporting. As the story unfolds, it is becoming clear that media bias can have a profound effect on how legal battles are perceived by the public, sometimes even before a judge has a chance to rule on the merits of the case. In a rather ironic twist, Blake Lively's legal team has recently requested that the judge impose a gag order on Justin Baldoni. The purpose of this request is to stop Baldoni from releasing further evidence to the public. Yet, this move comes after Lively herself has been responsible for leaking confidential information, including text messages and a confidential complaint, to major media outlets such as the New York Times. This paradox lies at the heart of the legal strategy being employed. On one hand, Lively's team wants to control the narrative and prevent any damaging evidence from coming to light. On the other, they have already set the wheels in motion by making private communications public. The request for a gag order is seen by many as a desperate attempt to rein in a situation that is spiraling out of control. It raises important questions about the consistency of her legal approach and whether her team is trying to cover up a potentially shaky case. Adding further complexity to the case is the introduction of HR complaints by Blake Lively's legal team. These complaints, which have come to light only recently, raise serious red flags. One of the primary concerns is the timing. Why were these HR complaints not presented earlier in the proceedings? The late introduction of these complaints suggests that Lively's team may be scrambling to bolster her case as new evidence begins to emerge that undermines her original claims. It appears to be a classic case of last-minute legal maneuvering. Critics argue that if these HR complaints were legitimate, they should have been part of the original filings, not an afterthought introduced when the narrative started shifting. This tactic not only undermines the credibility of the HR claims themselves, but also casts doubt on the overall integrity of Lively's legal strategy. In a case as high-profile as this, every piece of evidence is scrutinized, and the timing of its presentation can be as damaging as the content itself. Just when it seemed that the legal battle had reached an impasse, new evidence began to surface. Evidence that could potentially shift the entire direction of the case. Reports have emerged suggesting that there is fresh, damning evidence that further weakens Blake Lively's position. According to some accounts, if this evidence holds up under scrutiny, it could not only invalidate her claims but also provide a significant boost to Baldoni's case. This new evidence appears to include leaked documents and recordings that have begun to circulate among legal experts and media outlets. In one particularly dramatic moment, a video clip surfaced during an interview on the Dan Abrams Show, in which Baldoni was pressed about the origins and credibility of the evidence. His evasive responses only fueled further speculation that there might be more to the story than meets the eye. As new pieces of evidence continue to drop, the balance of power seems to be shifting. Legal analysts are now suggesting that the tide could turn dramatically in Baldoni's favor if these recent revelations are confirmed in court. It's a pivotal moment, one that could determine not only the outcome of this lawsuit but also set a precedent for how evidence is handled in future Hollywood legal battles. In every high-profile legal case, the role of the media cannot be underestimated, and this case is no exception. There are strong allegations that major Hollywood media outlets have been actively shaping the narrative to protect Blake Lively's image. Despite the mounting evidence that suggests her case may be on shakier ground than previously thought, certain media channels continue to portray her in a favorable light. Critics argue that the media's portrayal of Lively is less about unbiased reporting and more about maintaining a particular narrative, one that positions her as a victim of unfounded allegations rather than as a party with questionable evidence. This manipulation of the public narrative can have serious consequences, not only for the individuals involved but also for the integrity of the legal process. When media bias comes into play, it can sway public opinion and even influence the perceptions of potential jurors long before the case has been fully litigated in court. The allegations of media manipulation are bolstered by the fact that confidential complaints and text messages have been selectively released to the public, often with a heavy editorial slant. This isn't just a matter of breaking news, it's a deliberate effort to control the narrative, and it raises the question, who really benefits from the way this case is being reported? As we look to the future, the stakes in this legal battle could not be higher. If the fabrication allegations against Blake Lively's legal team are proven to be true, the consequences could be devastating. Not only would her current case be undermined, but it could also lead to severe legal repercussions for her team. Imagine a scenario, a lawsuit that collapses under the weight of its own dubious evidence, leaving a trail of damaged reputations and legal penalties in its wake. Baldoni's legal team is standing firm, continuously releasing evidence and maintaining that their approach has been entirely transparent and professional. They argue that every piece of evidence, from well-documented text messages to interviews with key witnesses, supports their claim that Lively's case is built on a foundation of fabricated evidence. If a judge rules in favor of these claims, it could completely upend the narrative that Blake Lively has been trying so hard to maintain. In this context, the legal consequences extend far beyond the immediate case. They could set a precedent for how evidence is handled in high-profile disputes, particularly in Hollywood, where the line between private and public information is often blurred. The outcome of this case may well influence future litigation strategies in the entertainment industry, reinforcing the idea that transparency and credibility are paramount. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. We're witnessing a legal battle that is as much about controlling the narrative as it is about the facts. On one side, we have Justin Baldoni and his team fighting to clear his name and expose what they claim is a web of fabricated evidence and last-minute legal tactics. On the other side is Blake Lively's camp, which has relied on leaked complaints and selective evidence to bolster her position. Every development in this case, from the introduction of HR complaints to the public release of confidential text messages, has added another layer of complexity. The legal maneuvers, The media's involvement and the constant flow of new evidence have created an atmosphere of uncertainty and suspense. As legal experts weigh in and public opinion continues to shift, one thing remains clear. This case is far from over, and its final outcome could have far-reaching implications. In the words of one commentator from the transcript, "I control the narrative. I'm living for this." That statement perfectly encapsulates the current state of affairs, a legal and media battleground where every word, every piece of evidence, and every public statement is part of a larger strategy aimed at controlling both the courtroom and the court of public opinion. As we wrap up this deep dive into the Baldoni versus Lively case, it's important to remember that this isn't just a story about two celebrities. It's a case that raises important questions about evidence integrity, legal ethics, and the role of the media in high-profile litigation. If the claims of fabricated evidence hold up, the ramifications for Blake Lively's case, and possibly for her reputation, could be catastrophic. Looking ahead, we can expect more filings, more leaked documents, and likely even more dramatic courtroom exchanges. With Blake Lively's team set to reintroduce their amended complaint on Tuesday evening, the next chapter in this saga is already on the horizon. As the legal drama unfolds, both sides are bracing for what could be a turning point in the case. Will the new evidence tilt the scales in favor of Baldoni, or will Lively's legal team manage to regroup and counterattack? Only time will tell. In the meantime, we'll be keeping a close eye on every development and providing you with the latest updates as they happen. This case is a reminder that in Hollywood, truth is often stranger than fiction, and sometimes the most explosive revelations come from the smallest details. The courtroom drama, combined with the relentless media attention, makes this one of the most captivating legal sagas in recent memory. As both sides continue to battle for control of the narrative, it remains to be seen whether justice will prevail or if the truth will be buried under layers of legal maneuvering and public relations spin. Thank you for joining me on this detailed exploration of the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case. I hope this breakdown has provided you with a clearer understanding of the key issues at play. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so you're the first to know when we release our next update on this evolving story. Stay tuned for more in-depth analyses of the latest in Hollywood news, legal battles, and behind-the-scenes drama. Until next time, subscribe to Starlight Scoops for all your celebrity drama, gossip, and news. Signing off and reminding you that in Hollywood, nothing is ever as it seems.